It's now been about 3 years since the Pulsar N family was launched, the N160 and the N250, and while those bikes didn't do very well at the start, in the recent past, over the last year particularly, the N160 has really grown to become a popular model for Bajaj, and Bajaj now wants to expand on the N160 portfolio to take on the Apache 160 in a more effective way. And just like what TVS is doing with the Apache, Bajaj now wants to offer you the choice of a 2-valve N160 and a 4-valve N160. This is the new N160 SS. It has a new engine, 4-valve head, predictably, but there's also a different bore, a different stroke. The entire head is different cam. And the result of it is that there is a significant increase in power. The N160 2-valve, which is still on sale, produces 16 horsepower. This one is 18.5. That's not only a sizable increase over the N160 2V, it's also more power than you get with the Apache RTR 160 4V, and interestingly, it's 0.1 horsepower more than the Yamaha R15 XSR MT15. And that caught my attention because that means that this could be a surprisingly quick motorcycle. Now, we spent the last few hours riding it around Pune, and I have some observations and some advice to you in terms of whether you get very excited by that 18.5 horsepower figure. From what I can tell, no, this is not as quick as the Yamahas. Somehow that little 155cc liquid-cooled engine, the Yamaha, always punches well above its weight and it performs much stronger than you would expect. This bike to me does not feel as quick as those motorcycles. I would draw this comparison more closely to the Apache 160 4V and not the liquid-cooled Yamaha engines, and that is what Bajaj has intended over here. The overall riding experience does feel familiar. It's that same fantastic smoothness that you used to get with the N160. This is a really smooth and refined riding experience, not just the engine. Even the bite point on the clutch is very smooth, almost commuter-like. There's nothing aggressive about this bike. Okay, as you can see, there's a lot of wind and I've been requested to hold an umbrella, so let's continue. Now, one of the other significant changes made here is that Bajaj has moved to ride-by-wire throttle, and that has allowed them to introduce a number of riding modes. Now, those riding modes change things like throttle response, traction control, depending on the mode. Yes, this bike now has traction control. And this top version, the SS, gets dual-channel ABS. There is a noticeable difference in the riding modes, but what I found is that all the modes are nice to use. Even sport mode, though it's more direct, is a smooth throttle and easy to use. Road mode seems to be the nicest of the lot because it gives you a good amount of power, but it's also a little smoother than sport, which can be a little jerky. Now, rain mode, for a day like today, I tried it, but it's far too slow and you need to twist the throttle open entirely. So it's good for a newer or nervous rider, but for anyone else, especially someone paying extra for the extra performance, rain mode doesn't really do very much. Now, what else is new and of significance? Well, definitely this TFT display here. Again, only on the SS model, not the S model on the new 4-valve N160. This is a 5-inch display. The housing looks very large and there are large bezels, but the display itself is quite nice. It's a nice, interesting readout. Looks a little different to what we've seen elsewhere, different color schemes, and it does change a few readouts based on what mode you go to. Bajaj tells us that there's also Google Maps casting, and if you have an Android phone, you can cast the map off your phone and turn off the display. But if you're using an Apple device, you're going to have to keep the display on just like you do with the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and that's a limitation that is put in place by Google, not by the bike manufacturers. It's just something you have to live with. You can also store documents on it, and you have things like Bluetooth control for your music. It's essentially the kind of stuff that we've seen with the competition, and again, this is something that Bajaj is trying to elevate the game when it comes to the N160. This arm is hurting me. As for the rest of the motorcycle, well, it's largely the same as before. Now, the N160 and the N250 used to share the same platform, but with the sheer volumes that this 160 now has, Bajaj has found it worthwhile to optimize this chassis platform in terms of a little weight saving here and there. They've managed to shave off a slight amount of weight in the chassis and the swing arm, and that has offset the extra weight brought in by the engine, and that's why Bajaj tells us that this bike weighs the same 151 kilos as before. What is nice is that the fork up front is now 37 mm in diameter versus 33, I think, before. Gives the front a nice muscular look, a little more than before. and there's a 130 section tyre on the back as well. So overall, the bodywork is the same, but the fatter fork and 3 new color schemes do make the N160 look a little fresh. Another change of significance when it comes to the split seat version is that Bajaj has revised the ergonomics. Now the seat height has not changed from before, but Bajaj tells us that they have reprofiled the seat and changed the angle of the handlebars. The old N160 had an unusual bend in the handlebar. It was almost like a old world clubman race bar which used to taper down like that. It was a little uncomfortable and I didn't really understand why a street naked like this had that kind of a handlebar. Bajaj has clearly had that feedback from people, and this handlebar does not have such a sharp angle. So it looks like a similar shape, but the angle has been reduced and the riding position is a little bit better. Now, what I don't like about this as a tall rider is that when you sit further back, the shape of the seat sort of pushes you forward. Shorter riders won't have an issue here, but if you're a tall rider, I think this is something that you will notice. That being said, the Apache 160 4V is not a comfy bike for tall riders, and I think that this is a little bit more comfy than that. Suspension wise, the N160 has always had a slightly firm and taut setup. It's a good handling motorcycle, responds well, absorbs rough roads pretty well as well. It's not as soft as the Apache 160, but it does a good job. It's a good all-rounder with a slightly firm edge. Okay, I think I am losing this battle with the wind, so now we're going to try and wrap this video up. And the overall feeling that I get from this motorcycle is that it's a more enhanced version of the N160. We always liked the N160. It was actually our bike of the year when it first came out. I think this motorcycle elevates that appeal and it makes it an even more compelling rival to the Apache 160 4V. Price-wise, the base N160 4V S version gives you a LCD display, it misses out on some of the electronic features and you get single channel ABS, whereas this version is about 1.44 lakh. And that is similar to what TVS is asking for with the top Apache RTR 160 4V as well. So the pricing is quite fair. And I think that this makes for a very nice city motorcycle. The smoothness of the engine, the tractability that you have at low speeds, I think is better than you get on the Apache. The Apache comes alive at higher revs, whereas this is more rideable. It has more drive when you open the throttle. Now, Bajaj has told us that this engine can rev all the way to 10,900 RPM. In my experience today, there's really no point in doing that. 9,500, 10,000 is as high as you need to go. And the overall performance that you get here is very nicely suited to life within the city. That is what we have to tell you about the N160 4V. It is a nice motorcycle and I'm going to end now to give my right arm a break. It's strong wind. I'm gonna fly off the mountain. Gone.